These female demons were some of the scariest creatures in Slavic and Ukrainian mythology. In Ukraine, people believed that they come to their homes at night through the windows and doors, stand beside a child's cradle, and keep babies from sleeping. But what kind of creatures were they, what did they want, and why were our ancestors so afraid of them? Today we are going to talk about the Nichnytsia, mysterious night demons, also known as the Weepers. Their image belongs to that part of Slavic folklore where the boundary between the human world and the world of spirits is especially thin. In Slavic demonology, Nichnytsia are evil female night spirits and demons whose main ability was believed to be taking away a person's sleep. They most often attacked little children, especially babies. A Nichnytsia could come to a house after sunset, enter through a window or door, approach the cradle, and begin tormenting the child. According to folk tales, she could stand at the head of the cradle, crawl underneath it, or even climb directly inside. She would pinch the child, tickle it, pull at it, hit it, or simply stand nearby, preventing it from falling asleep. The child would begin to cry. The parents would try to calm it down, but after some time the crying would start again. The night could turn into an endless cycle of brief sleep followed by sudden cries from the child. That is why Nichnytsia were also called the Weepers. Their name was directly connected with the result of their appearance. The child would cry, scream, and be unable to sleep. So why were the Nichnytsia so dangerous? Night in traditional Slavic culture was a special time. After sunset, the familiar world changed. Fields, forests, roads, and yards became dark and invisible. What was safe and familiar during the day could seem foreign and dangerous at night. According to folk beliefs, many supernatural beings became active after sunset. The Nichnytsia was one of them. She did not necessarily attack openly. On the contrary, her power lay in the fact that she came unnoticed. She could enter through an open window. She could come through a door. She could hide in a dark corner. Or she could simply stand beside the cradle and wait. What made her especially frightening was the fact that a child could not protect itself. That is why a baby, the smallest and most vulnerable being in the house, was believed to be the Nichnytsia's main target. Different regions of the Slavic world had different explanations of who Nichnytsia were before they became demonic creatures. According to some beliefs, the souls of girls who died before experiencing motherhood turned into the Nichnytsia. It was believed that such souls could return to the world of the living to get their revenge. Other explanation was that they were the souls of unborn or unbaptized children who had never been given the opportunity to live an earthly life. Other legends connected the Nichnytsia with dead witches or childless women. There were also very dark legends claiming that such spirits could be women who had committed terrible crimes during their lives. Thus, the Nichnytsia could have different origins in folk belief, but they were almost always associated with death, the violation of the natural order, or an unfinished life. But what did the Nichnytsia actually look like? Unlike some other mythological creatures, the Nichnytsia did not have one fixed appearance. This very instability makes her image especially fascinating. In some regions she was imagined as a small or large flying creature. She could resemble a bat, a nocturnal moth, or a bird of prey. Sometimes the Nichnytsia could look like a strange insect flying through the darkness. In the Carpathian region, there were beliefs describing her as a long black creature resembling a worm that could crawl into a child's cradle. In southern Ukraine, the Nichnytsia took human form. She was described as a tall, thin woman with long, loose black hair. She wore black clothing or old rags. She could have a frightening face, an unnatural appearance, or be almost indistinguishable from an ordinary woman. And it was precisely this human form that eventually became one of the best-known versions of the creature. A dark figure with long hair appearing beside a child's cradle in the middle of the night is one of the most frightening images in Slavic folklore. According to folk beliefs, it was practically impossible to see Nichnytsia during the day. Her time began at twilight. She could hide in the dark corners of a house, beneath the roof, in chimneys, dense bushes, or other places where sunlight could not reach. The day belonged to humans. The night belonged to spirits. And when the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, dangerous creatures were believed to gain the freedom to move around. That is why traditional culture had many rules connected with sunset. Some things could not be left outside. Others could not be brought into the house. And certain actions were considered dangerous after darkness fell. One of these rules concerned water. It was believed that late in the evening, a person could accidentally scoop up a Nichnytsia along with the water. In other words, someone could go to a well after sunset, draw water, bring it home, and unknowingly bring a dangerous spirit into the house along with it. If water was brought in late, it needed to be purified. To do this, a burning splinter of wood was dipped into the water. Fire had a cleansing and protective power in traditional beliefs. Thus, the water underwent a kind of ritual before being brought into the home. So what did people do if the child cried at night? If a child regularly woke up and cried at night, people might say, "The Nichnytsia has settled here." Then various methods of protection were used. One of them involved small dolls made from pieces of cloth or old diapers. These dolls could be placed near the windows. Sometimes 2 or 3 were made for each window. It was believed that the Nichnytsia would see them, mistake them for children, and turn her attention toward them. Meanwhile, the real child was supposed to remain safe. In the morning, the dolls were taken out of the house. In some traditions, they were thrown away at a crossroads, a place that was often considered in folk magic to be a special boundary between different spaces. Another method of protection involved herbs. A child could be bathed in infusions of mint, lovage, thyme. In traditional culture, plants often had a dual meaning. They could be both medicinal and magical. Particular importance was given to herbs whose scent was associated with cleansing, calm, or protection. Thus, bathing a child was not simply a hygienic procedure but could become a ritual intended to restore peace. However, according to folk beliefs, Nichnytsia could harm not only children. Women who had recently given birth and pregnant women also feared them. It was believed that a Nichnytsia could take away a mother's breast milk. A mother might suddenly lose the ability to feed her child, and this could be attributed to the influence of the night spirit. There was also a belief that the Nichnytsia herself could put the child to her breast, but her milk was supposedly poisonous. After this, the child could become weak, sick, and begin to wither away. Thus, the Nichnytsia became more than a spirit of sleeplessness. She became an image of a force threatening the entire young family, especially the mother and her newborn child. So what was really behind the Nichnytsia? Today we can look at these beliefs from a different perspective. Constant crying in an infant, sleep problems, infant colic, physical discomfort, increased muscle tone, disrupted sleep patterns, and other conditions have natural explanations that modern medicine is much better equipped to investigate. Likewise, difficulties with breastfeeding or weakness in a mother or child can now be explained by physiological and medical causes. But our ancestors did not have modern knowledge or diagnostic tools. So invisible causes were given a visible form. That is how the Nichnytsia appeared. She was a way of explaining something frightening that had no obvious cause. And yet, even today, this image remains disturbing.